Welcome back here to a Thursday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live, driven, and powered by Geaux Chevrolet. Watch your cell phone over there by Willie Wade.
He's watching it.
Might send a text message to a recruit. Speaking of recruiting, Shea Dixon, Go247, doing excellent work right now, as you can find them online at Shea Dixon. All right, Shea, let's get into it, buddy. I want you to tell me about how you feel about. I'm just messing with you. I can see Shea tightening up like, oh shit, Culotta's gonna set me up.
Ribs were great.
I'm gonna get the reputation like he's got up there. They're gonna blackball me.
All right, let's get back to football.
Sorry. Yeah.
Back to football.
Come on, man.
How bad you feel for Blair last night?
I thought he did a good job.
He did. That is a tough spot. I told that's like trying to do radio for an hour, trying to hold a fart. I mean, that's what Blair, just uncomfortable.
And
the
there's
entire
no end
time.
in sight. There's no bathroom.
I just can't. I can't do this, man. I don't know how I'm going to hold on for an hour. Recruiting. What's the temperature around LSU? Last weekend, it felt like they had a who's who.
Oh boy, that was the biggest recruiting weekend they've had. Since the Florida game in 2019, so 2 years. You took a year off with COVID in 2020 and not being able to have guys, but boy, that was a good turnout. And look, I talked to a lot of kids, juniors and some of these seniors, but you talk about kids who are juniors in high school right now and are getting to do all this for the first time.
Yeah.
And I mean, them and their parents, kids coming in from Texas, notably like out-of-state kids who had definitely never seen the atmosphere before, were blown away because, I mean, look, they're back to being able to have them on the field before the game. You saw Zach Evans, five-star. Not Zach Evans, Harold Perkins. 5-star linebacker. Zach Evans was not at the game walking around.
I mean, he could have been. That was recruiting went last 2 years ago.
They don't need running backs that bad. Harold Perkins was out there, a number of guys. And, you'd get your time where you walk from the sidelines out to the Tiger Eye and talk with Coach Geaux while the team's warming up and all that. So I think it was a hit for him. And what's been interesting, Jordy, is that since the summer, really, when they did a bulk of getting back to recruiting in person with summer camp, and then you got into July when you're sort of feeling out the board, is when they kind of trimmed up on some guys, added a few others, and they've been at 15 commitments since then. So, no matter what you think of how the season's gone, on the field play, whatever it might be, they haven't lost any commitments, haven't gained any commitments, but we're also looking at kind of the recruiting calendar being year-round now has put so much more into the offseason. Kind of when you get into the season, we're not seeing a whole lot of shuffling in the top 10 at all. I mean, it's been the exact same order almost, with maybe one or two teams kind of moving around. So they sit inside the top 10, but it's going to be about how you finish and what it looks like at the end. But the news of the week from the NCAA, I think, was huge for a school like LSU especially, who knows what it's like to have low roster numbers.
How do you manage, because recruiting isn't seen through the same lens as fans are. I think that, that's one thing we always have to, kind of suffice in saying is that, they don't look at losses as setbacks.
No, well, I always say that too all the time. And they're not sitting around listening to shows and surfing the message boards and, having it tuned into YouTube or FM radio all day. And I say this one all the time too because it's true. These kids lose like every third Friday night. It ain't no big deal.
Like Jacoby Matthews and Ponchatoula, like they were no good, right?
Oh, and there were times in Finley's senior year, I think they won 2 or 3 games.
Right.
So they get that. I think they just want to be part of a winning team and a team that they think can compete for championships. And we've never seen, even Les's final years, we didn't see recruiting fall. They weren't out here signing a not top 10 class or whatever it might be. So as long as you're in Louisiana in the boot, you'll be good. But I do think that it'll be really interesting to see how everyone, but LSU, because that's what we focus on, handles this whole idea of being able to oversign, really, because of transfers.
Yeah, the transfer you mentioned yesterday, NCAA Division I Council approved the waiver to help college football teams with replacing transfers. And obviously the transfer portal has become such a major story in college football. Here is a rule trying to help out schools in replacing those guys where you've got up to 7 scholarships a year that you can replace transfers with.
Right. So, and the clock will start on the last day of your school's fall semester or December 15th, which would be like if your school went past that. December 15th would be the start date, which is the first day of the early signing period. So here's like the Cliff Notes version, and this will be a 1-year waiver. And the NCAA said, look, we're going to try to figure out in the next few months what a permanent solution is. But every year you're capped at signing 25 guys. Okay, so LSU's got 15 guys right now. Well, we've heard, you can just see it by how they've recruited recently. They want to hit the transfer portal. Well, if you've only got 10 spots left, Jordy, and I'm telling you, then you're looking at the product on the field, and you're saying they need O-linemen. Yeah. They need linebackers after these guys who are all veterans are kind of out of here. There's some quick fixes that you need. How do you tell, and ultimately you can't really, but the Shaz Prestons, the Quincy Wiggins, all these guys who are uncommitted in Louisiana, like, hey, we might not have a spot for you because now we're having to use of these 10 spots we have left, a bunch of them on transfers because we need quick fixes. So now I think this ruling is twofold for me. One, it protects the high school athlete, which I think is huge, right? Like, you're not building a program on transfers. And look, Joe Burrow was a transfer. I get it. Like, you can win a lot of games with transfers, but that's not a long-term fix. Right. The point is to recruit kids, bring them in, develop them, and get them onto the field over time or whatever it might be. I think that now we're not in that. We're moving out of the age where you were stuck on that 25, and schools were trending more and more to just saying, how many transfers can we fit in?
Yeah.
You know, like I need to win right now.
Baylor basketball.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that isn't the temperature of just LSU. That's everywhere, every coach. I need to win right now. So I'll take a 22-year-old offensive lineman over an 18-year-old one. Like, yeah, give them to me. So I think we were trending towards, they were about to be signing 15, 18 high school kids a class. Well, that's 7 fewer kids that get a chance to go to LSU. They get a chance to go to Georgia, Clemson, wherever it might be. So I think it protects the high school athlete. And now it just protects, it was a health concern when LSU got to 50-something scholarship guys and we're out there. Eventually you're playing guys both ways or something. Yeah. You remember the Florida game, they won, but they had walk-ons playing everywhere.
That's right.
So you can't do that. And that's what you saw when you have NFL, transfers, all these different things come at once. All of a sudden you've got FIPS injuries, opt-outs. They had like 50-something dudes. Like, you can't do that. So they're going to give them up to 7, and that means, so after that December 15th or after the last day of your semester, every kid that enters a transfer portal, you get to match them, take one back out. So doesn't have to be at the same position, doesn't have to be the same age kid. You don't have to take him right away, but you don't have to wait beyond signing day anymore and say, hey, look, we got to tell these high school kids we like no, because we just might need 3 or 4 spots in the spring to see where things are at. So I know just from talking to coaches, not just at LSU, but all over, they knew this one was coming, right, over the past few weeks. Dellinger had reported about it a couple of weeks back, but them making it final allows them to move forward now feeling a lot better of, hey, okay, we can really go balls to the wall for these high school kids, the Shasta, everybody that we want, and these out-of-state kids, because we know we're going to have those spots for 7 guys. But it doesn't, people were asking me this, nothing matters yet until after that into the fall semester. So yes, LSU's had a bunch of guys transfer, but they're not going to be able to make those up.
So it does. The clock doesn't start until
whatever the
spring.
last day of the semester is.
Walker Howard, big news last week, was injured versus Ruston.
Yeah.
Broken fibula.
Broke his left fibula per his father. His dad went and said that.
Yeah.
And but now, and that was when he was going to go up to Notre Dame and then make it back to LSU. And that was Friday night. He got injured in that Ruston game. They get it checked out on Saturday morning, and lo and behold, I was looking around the sidelines for the kickoff on Saturday night, and there's crutches and leg boot on, but Walker Howard just chilling, made his way over, hanging out. So you see what his buy-in is.
Too much fun to have.
Yeah,
too much fun to be had.
But narcos in my pocket.
Yeah, his dad told the Daily Advertiser over in Lafayette that, look, he's trying to rehab and get back this year. Yeah. And I don't know if he will, and as a senior, you hate to get injured and that be it for you. So we'll see what STM does if they get into the playoffs or if he comes back. But regardless, he'll be here for January. Ready to roll. Early enrollee is what you need from your quarterback.
Big news yesterday was Major Burns is going to be out this week at the safety position, which I think a lot of the LSU fan base started to think first that you'll see Sage Ryan for an initial time. Sage Ryan, of course, 5-star safety in last year's cycle, was a big win for LSU late in the process. Do you expect to see him this week?
Trev. Holding on. Took
Trev
out the jersey.
Falk,
that was
right.
game worn.
Came
Is
up.
that hanging up in here?
What?
You need to add that.
The Trev Falk?
The game worn Trev Falk that he wore to the ceremony when
with
he
the faded 7?
Blood still on it. You need that one in here somewhere.
Fire.
So the expectations are that Sage is going to play this weekend. And they started working him back, was that Mississippi State week, and certainly into Auburn, so last week as well. So I've kind of been told that he's had a couple of good weeks of practice under him. Obviously, he missed all of fall camp with an injury. Then he was in this no-contact jersey. He wasn't even dressing out on game days, so you knew that he was kind of really banged up. But now it sounds like his feet are under him, feels good. We saw him. He was at practice this week, running around, in the media portion that we got to see. But, yeah, I would expect that he's going to play. I don't know if he's going to start, but not like just on special teams. Like they want him to be out there in the secondary this weekend, and you'll see what it brings. But I'm interested to see because beyond Jay Ward, Major had started all 5 games. I mean, so is it Cam Lewis or is it Todd Harris or Jordan Tolles, or does a guy like Sage step into that role?
What do you think of this weekend's game? I think that Kentucky feels pretty vulnerable.
I was listening to y'all on the way over, and I mean, right? And then you look at Lloyd. Are you over there? What is the schedule? I think they beat Chattanooga by like 3 points.
It's a close one.
They haven't
beat Missouri by a handful of points in week 1. Florida, I think they only threw for like 80 yards on them, but won. And O had said this last night on the show, which I didn't realize, and he kind of said it and laughed. He was like, "Look." He talks about turnover differential so much. He said, kudos to them. They're undefeated, and they're -9.
Yeah, wow.
+2.
They're just giving you the ball nonstop. So Will Levis turned it all over a bunch throwing it. They don't force a ton of turnovers. But to double back to what I was kind of listening to what I felt like y'all's mood was coming over here was that, this is a chance for LSU to go up there and grab a dub. Like, they might be better than they should be better than Kentucky, but they might also be able to just beat them. Kentucky doesn't look all that great if you're actually looking at the schedule.
Yeah, I'm going through the schedule right now. Impressive win over Missouri, 35-28. Chattanooga.
That's a touchdown.
5, right?
28-23.
Okay, so less than a touchdown against Chattanooga.
Kentucky, South Carolina, 16-10.
South Carolina's terrible.
They are terrible. They're terrible.
I mean, I'm sure Chattanooga is fighting as hard as they can, but I doubt they're very good. And that's at 5 points. And then the hang your hat on win is Florida. And
What was the score of that game?
20-13. It was just a
On the
muck
last
it
play.
up game.
Wow.
And so
I'm telling you.
LSU,
And Florida just didn't play well. And,
Yeah, right. I mean, they were hungover. They were kind of similar to where Kentucky is now. They played that Alabama game. They played them toe to toe.
it's the LSU Alabama when they have to go and play Arkansas the next week. It's like, how could they even play? They're so beat up, and I'm sure Florida was in that same mold where it's like, good Christ, man, I don't think we can play in a week.
I also think too. I think one thing that kind of stood out to me across the SEC and Power 5 games, I guess you could say they've played UCLA. LSU hasn't scored more than 28 points in a game yet, and they've had some defensive help there. So I'd be curious if they don't get above that this weekend, in large part too, because after the game and on Monday, you could tell O was pissed that they weren't running tempo, and that the check with me stuff was still going. I would have no way they're coming out doing check with me this weekend.
No way.
There ain't no way. Or O would just cut it off right there and say, we're not. Max, don't look over here anymore. Just go.
Tell Jake Peets I'm going to take him fishing. I'm taking Jake Peets fishing next weekend.
Drop a curtain from the booth.
There is no way they're going to be out there not showing some tempo.
There's no way.
When they've run tempo, they
look good.
Yes.
So I think they're going to put up some points this
That's
weekend.
the maddening part. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like the stuffs that they do good, they shy away from. The players that are playing the best, they don't play. It's crazy to see it. Speaking of best players, Keyshawn Butte was not at practice.
It doesn't sound like that's anything.
I think he's good.
Bubble wrap that boy until every Saturday. Then
you lose one, and the melt is just
you can see
volcanic.
You can see the public reaction just by him not being out there. And it's like, what did he?
Yeah, right.
With everything, all the smoke around LSU and the opt-outs, you're like, is he opting out? I doubt it. But Jesus, if that happens, throw it. Pull the pin.
He's still got a year and a half to play.
Right.
I'll say this though too. There have been last season went off the rails, right? Even after that UCLA game, the players, all of them said, look, this team's tight. That ain't going to happen. They haven't had any opt-outs. They hadn't had any guys on Twitter running and saying, Butte's been great after every game with just shooting it straight. Max does the same.
Yeah.
They're right about that. The guys haven't turned on each other.
No, that is true.
So we'll see. I'm telling you, I think they go up there and get a win this weekend.
I'm with you. I think that Kentucky
and Durante Jones has had
the
Mississippi State defense.
He's got to be looking at Kentucky's offense, saying, we should almost dominate this crew this weekend." If you're Durante Jones looking at Levis, he's he's so liberal with the ball. You know what I mean?
Like, all the time.
I mean, just with LSU, you can get it. You could probably score a couple this weekend on defense.
Don't you roll with the same game plan you did against Auburn? It's essentially the same plan where they want to run the football and kind of manage the clock, and hopefully Bo Nix doesn't make a mistake. Well, and then it turned into the Bo Nix show.
And that's what I'm saying about, like, you look at Durante Jones, and let's just look at.
He's game planned well every week.
Right. He's got that in Mississippi State, perfect game plan.
That's what you have to do.
Everyone here screamed last year, why are you playing man? Why are you playing man? He dropped all 8. They kept it in front. They played great. The whole talk last week was Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. Stop the run game.
Nothing.
The whole talk was, how do you stop Tank Bigsby? They did it. And certainly, I don't know how many. I think Durante Jones keeps the buzz cut, but if he had anything, he'd be ripping it out because his guys were there to make plays all weekend. I mean, you heard BJ say it on your show. I'm beating myself up because I was right there 3 or 4 times. He slipped right out of my hands.
They were touching him.
Some of your best players are right there in position to make plays and just kind of went sideways on him. So, boy, it was slippery.
Bo Nix.
Greased up.
I bet he was greased up all night.
Best game of his life.
Best game he'll ever play.
Best game he'll ever play.
Well, the other one would probably be beating LSU last year, like in the Finley Knicks game, where it was like 45-0 or whatever it was.
Get him out of here.
What do you make of this conference right now?
All over the place, right?
It is, right? I mean, outside of Alabama,
Georgia and Bama look good. After that, I don't know. Arkansas or Ole Miss is going to be a good game this weekend. I don't think anybody's cared about it because both of them lost in bad fashion the week before. So it's kind of like, well, whatever.
Right.
That'll be a good game this weekend. I think those are 2 good teams.
What's coming up on the site?
Recruiting updates, obviously. We're getting into about that midway point of the season, too, where evals are kind of really in full swing. So we may see some new offers. I think a lot of people are eager to see if they get some O-linemen from the high school side, more than they have now into the mix. I think they already have 4 commits in the O-line. But I do think that Kentucky's actually set to have their biggest recruiting weekend in like 2 years this weekend. They're coming off a big Florida thing, and they try to double down now, like, hey, everybody get back.
6:30 at night. They got some new chrome
sold
helmets.
Out.
Yeah, sold out.
Yeah.
Kroger Field, baby.
I think the horse track opens this weekend, too.
Oh, that's right.
So
that's right.
It's a big thing.
Wow.
But
all the degenerates.
Yes.
Damn one, baby.
We'll find out what this means every next week. I'll start talk to more kids and see what their plans are. But Florida was going to be a massive official visit weekend and visit weekend for LSU, and then it gets released that it's at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, how much does that change things in terms of travel plans and all those different things? So we'll figure out next week kind of what the visitor list will look like for Florida.
Any update on Quincy? You know, we always are on Quincy watch here. I mean, how's it going for him?
And y'all are big Shaz Preston stands too.
Huge Shaz.
Huge Shaz fans.
Yes.
Nothing new on Quincy. He was at the game last weekend, so he's around. You know, I think Jeff Jones, his mom, all of them were all at the game. So the more you keep the Madison Prep contingent around, I think the better your chances are for him.
Absolutely. Shea Dixon, Go247 is the site. Find him on Twitter at Shea Dixon, always keeping up with the latest in recruiting. He's also very vocal on game days as well over there on his site. So check him out at Go247.
How much do you keep up with these recruits on Instagram? Do you have to follow all of them? Because of the stories that they put out. Harold Perkins
Instagram story.
put one out yesterday. It's like, sorry about somebody, like, they do Ask Me Anything.
Right. And he was like, no, that's home.
Yeah, they're like, sorry about LSU Aubrey. He's like, nah, that's home. And he posted
I mean, that
pictures of LSU.
stuff can be telling sometimes, certainly.
Not Quincy.
This is just kind of where things are going, I guess. I try not to read into it too much, but if you kind of look back in retrospect, I bet you would see some things like, I'll notice that, there'll be without one uncommitted kid who's engaging in every, post that every LSU commit makes about LSU, and then you're like, that I should have known he was up. But then he's probably doing that with everybody. So I don't know. I try not to do it too much. The only time I want to really care what a recruit's tweeting about is when I know he's about to commit or drop a top couple teams, throw them on notifications real quick.
So you're not playing Sherlock over there.
You got to get them off notifications after that. You don't want to be around for the congrats,
the meltdown.
Retweets.
Yeah.
You don't want to be there
following
for that.
this kid.
Yeah.
How much do they hit you up? Like, how much do recruits hit you up about that stuff that they've done? Like, kind of trying to notify you.
That'd be more like a commitment thing. And I mean, like, for guys who are committed, of like, hey, I'll be at the game this weekend or whatever. Because once you commit, your contact falls off a lot with all these other coaches, so you're kind of back to all right, I got time to talk to Shea. But when you're uncommitted and Nick and Ed and Lane and everyone's calling you nonstop, take a minute to get back to Shea D.
Get in touch with Shea D over at Go247. Remember, Falaya Real Estate is helping you out. The way that they sell and buy homes has changed the way that we do that here in Louisiana. Find out for yourself online at falaya.com. You get exposure on MLS, Zillow, Realtor.com, virtual tours all over the place at Falaya. Falaya Real Estate is changing the game. Download the app today inside of your Apple or Android stores, Falaya.com. Shea Dixon talking some recruiting. We will wrap it up next. Talk to Megan Making Money as she will give us a couple of winners to look out for here on the NFL weekend coming up next from Barstool Sports. Megan Making Money to close out this Wednesday. Make sure you hit that like button. Thank you so much for you all being out there this morning. Before you get out of here, make sure you click that thumb up or even if that thumb down. Just the interaction helps us out, please, before you move on. Thank you, and we'll be back with Megan Making Money here on the Jordy Culotta Show.